Joining us this morning on Wellness on Wake Up Nigeria is Oby Nnadi. She is the founding CEO and team lead of Thrive Network, a registered mental health NGO. Her journey into the field of mental health advocacy began in 2018, inspired by her personal battle with postpartum depression, as PPD. She will be discussing manning up. Of course, we're still talking about men's emotional health. How are you doing today?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
Very well, thank you.
How is your mental health?
My mental health is currently battling with my regular health. But yeah, it's good. It's
fantastic.
Good. Yeah.
Fantastic.
So I know we touched on this last week, so it's so good for us to be able to really focus on it today.
Yes.
Manning up.
Yes, absolutely. And as always, I'm going to start by wishing every man who's watching us on television right now a happy Men's Health Month. I have come in contact with close to 15 men this morning, and I think about 14 of them do not have an idea that this month is dedicated to them.
Yeah.
But the month of June is actually dedicated to men worldwide, you know, and we tend to encourage them to pay more attention to their physical
Father's Day is even this
mental
weekend.
health. Exactly, exactly. And the focus this year is on closing the empathy gap for men. So that's us providing more support in every aspect, emotionally, financially, mentally, and otherwise. And I'm going to ask you, ladies, how are you treating my guys, Edgar and the other guys? How are you guys treating them this month?
How is Edgar treating us? Edgar is showing us pepper. I beg.
It's
justice for Mary and Titi.
Oh my goodness. So yeah, thank you. Like, you know, as I always say, this is such an important and overlooked conversation concerning men's emotional health. If you put 100 Nigerian men, and I mean, I'm limiting this to Nigerian men because that's well, I know a bit, or I know something about Nigerian men. So if you put 100 Nigerian men in this room and you ask them, what's your biggest struggle? And you categorize these struggles under physical, financial, emotional, mental, and spiritual health, I promise you, 90 of them will say to you my financial health and status. Yes, while finance is a very important aspect of men's overall well-being, because on the societal ladder, although women, of course, are doing their bit, but in our society, the man is expected to provide. The pressure for women to provide is not as much as it is on men. So men are going to say to you, oh, money, 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 bills, 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 and all of that. And their emotions, you know, is at the back burner. It's not discussed. So you end up having more irritable men, more men who tend to be aggressive, more men who struggle to, you know, communicate, who struggle to clearly tell you, this is exactly how I feel. And emotions. I've been talking to kids for about 3 weeks now about their emotions, trying to help them identify their emotions. Let me tell you something, Mary. It took me 31 years of my life to begin to identify emotions, because this is not really a thing for African parents or parents before, you know, parents of the 21st century. Yeah. So most men are not really in tune with that aspect of their lives, their emotions. And when you say emotional health and you're talking about men, you're talking about how men tend to manage their emotions, emotional intelligence. You know, you're talking about emotional regulation. Are they able to regulate their emotions? You know, to manage stress, to handle conflict, to manage heartbreak, to manage money problems. You know, are they able to manage these situations as they should? You know,
I recently, not even recent, like over the years I've observed, but recently it's something that keeps tugging at my heartstrings. The fact that this isn't even an African thing. It's a global thing. Because when you read books, watch movies and stuff, and you see the men, the way they try to project, you realize that this is something that has been on since time immemorial.
Like forever.
Where a man is seen as a weakling if he decides to show emotions.
Exactly.
The man is regarded as a sissy or henpecked or any such thing, just because he has the emotional side to him.
Absolutely.
And even in some cases, many females try to take advantage of men like that. Oh, he's a sweet boy. So because he's a sweet boy, you treat him anyhow.
Exactly.
You say you want a manly man. Exactly. And men are aware of this.
Exactly.
And so they try to meet up to the standards required so they can also be up on the pecking order when it comes to being able to choose the kind of woman they want.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I mean, isn't that the reason why, you know, most men are praised when they project challenging emotions? And by challenging emotions, I don't want to use the word negative emotions, because these emotions are considered challenging, you know, because it's difficult to contain. So when a man projects anger, irritability, frustration, oh yeah, it's a man thing, that's the way they are. But when a man projects joy, when a man projects excitement, you know, like you said, he's seen as a CC. I was watching this clip at a wedding where a father broke down, you know, in tears. He was giving his daughter away at a traditional event. And I was observing the wife's body language. She was so put off. And I was wondering, and I said to myself, this are actually tears of joy. The man is overwhelmed. This is such a huge event in his life. And, you know, there are daughters who are really, well, most daughters are closer to their dads and all of that. So this man was expressing, he was overwhelmed in the moment. And what I expected from his partner at that point was support. A rub on the back, a pat on the back, you know, just words of encouragement to say, hey, look, she's not, you know, she's just moving from her house to another house. She's starting her own life, but we'll always be there. And that's what I say to partners. In that moment, that's what the man needs. And like I said, we always have to go back to how we are raising our sons, how we're raising our boys. It is so important. I was having a conversation with an e-taxi driver, and he says to me, oh no, my wife is raising my boys differently. She says they are boys, so they don't really have to show too much excitement. This is his wife. Wow. And not even him. This is his wife. So this is how it starts. So men are taught to man up. And you see, what does that do for the men in society in return? You have more men who are intentionally ending their lives. You have more men who are suffering or struggling with mental health problems like anxiety, depression. Then there's a lot of these mental health problems are often characterized by mood swings, withdrawal, irritability. He's not able to express himself.
And you know, sometimes it also leads to men looking for weaker women.
Thank you.
Just so they can be able to keep that image. You see a man that will say, I cannot marry a woman who can change her own tires. I cannot marry a woman who can carry 50 kg bag of rice. I cannot marry a woman that does this, does that. If the moment a muscular woman shows up, you see so many men cringing. They withdraw immediately. They don't want anything to do with that. Why? Because they believe that should be them, not her.
Yeah, exactly.
But myself and my sisters were raised to do all these things. Like,
I mean,
carry a bag of rice.
Don't get me wrong. There's absolutely nothing wrong with a man being a gentleman and offering to help. However, there's also nothing wrong with appreciating, you know, a woman who is able to do these things for herself. Because look, it is the mental conditioning our men have received. And I think it's also important to say this. Our men are wired to save themselves in distress.
Exactly. And you can still save your wife in distress or your woman.
Exactly.
Yeah, you just need to have an understanding. Absolutely. Like, who wants to keep carrying it? I don't even think I can remember how to carry it anymore.
You understand.
Yeah.
I think that our men carry way too much on their shoulders. I think that there's a whole lot. In fact, it gives me cause for concern in my field, most especially because I have the privilege of talking to men who share a lot of stuff with me, and you're amazed that these men are married. These men have sisters. These men have mothers, and they're not able to say to them, this is how I feel. You know, in the part of the country where I come from, a man is not even expected to sit down and have a conversation with his woman about how she triggers him or how she stirs up negative emotions. That's a woman thing.
See, there's a lot to unpack regarding this.
Absolutely.
Manning up is a huge, will I say, a myriad of emotions, a myriad of so many things. But thank you so much. It's always a pleasure to have a conversation with you, Oby. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. And with that, we've reached the top of the hour this morning on Wake Up Nigeria. Just stay with us. We'll be back on the other side.